Hello, my name is Patrick Dunnigan. I am here to interview Ryan Grill from the Kentucky Medical Marijuana Center. He is one of the certified doctors that are now allowed to actually recommend medical cannabis to patients in the state of Kentucky. Right, we are just going to ask him some simple questions. I hope you enjoy the interview. At the end of the interview, we will have a conclusion. And again, thank you. Stay tuned for the end of the video. I appreciate you watching. And I'm just going to ask you some general questions, and then I might ask you some your thoughts about your perspective of the cannabis industry in the state. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Sounds like a plan. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
First, tell me who you are and tell me about your business.
Yes, so I'm Ryan Grell. I'm an anesthesiologist by training. I own and run a medical clinic here in Louisville that's designed to certify qualifying patients for the medical cannabis program here in Kentucky.
Okay. All right. And how long have you been in the cannabis industry, Ryan?
Here in Kentucky since about September is when we opened our doors, but I've got some experience from Massachusetts and the Boston area before I moved here to Kentucky.
Gotcha. All right. And what was your draw to this cannabis? What brought you to the cannabis field? What was your main reason?
Well, it's a new idea and a new concept here in Kentucky, and I noticed there was a lot of hesitancy and a lot of misconceptions about this industry, and I had some experience with this in Massachusetts before I was here, and I felt that there was a big unmet need here for patients who couldn't get certified by their physicians, and my partners and I were very interested in the space and interested in using cannabis for medical purposes, so we sort of filled the niche that's here.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And you said you were an anesthesiologist at Jewish Hospital. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I work over at Jewish and University of Louisville Hospital.
Okay. Yeah, you probably operated on my wife a couple times. So let me ask you this question. What is the number one question you get what is the number one uh feedback question you get from people that are coming into your business? Because a lot of people think that, not just for better words, is it is a scam. And I've explained to them that it's not, all right, that you do have to have a legal certified Kentucky physician in order to gain that card. Is that correct?
Yes, unfortunately, that's one of the most difficult things we're running into right now. So Governor Bashir put out an executive order, 2022-798, which legalized possession of medical cannabis if you had a qualifying condition, starting in January 2023. And very, very well-intended executive order. It was essentially made to be a bridge to get us to the full medical program here. However, there weren't restrictions on who could provide these recommendations. So a lot of physicians from outside of the state were doing virtual appointments and issuing these letters, but they were doing it under some misleading at best circumstances, saying that this was an official letter or medical cannabis card, when in reality it's just a letter that will last until January 1st. So a lot of patients are very frustrated, rightfully so, when they understand that they paid $200 for this letter, and then the letter is going to be worthless here in a month.
Right.
So that's a lot of the pushback that we're getting, but we're doing things a little bit differently. So all of our physicians are already licensed by the Office of Medical Cannabis, so we're able to provide the temporary letter that gets people until January 1st and keeps them covered until then. But we're also able to provide that permanent certification and get people squared away for January 1st medical cards.
Now, the way I've been, because I'm, like I said, I'm the director of Kentucky Cannabis Freedom Coalition. You're aware of that, right? What I've been telling people is that, listen, if your current physician is not certified with the state of Kentucky, that's when you need to hunt down the doc. That's when you need to start doing the research for the doctor that, like yourself, that would be qualified to certify medical cannabis. Is that correct?
Exactly. So the big, there's a few big issues we're having. One of the biggest is access, right? So the official party line with most of the big employers around here, University of Louisville Physicians, Norton and Baptist, they all allow their physicians to become certified to recommend medical cannabis. However, all three of those institutions are not allowing physicians to do this on any of their properties. So most physician offices are owned by one of these three entities here, and they provide the space, they provide the support staff, et cetera. So most physicians aren't able to participate in this program unless they're willing to build their own clinic and invest, resources and time. And it's incredibly expensive to create and run your own medical practice. So most physicians aren't pursuing this at all. So that's sort of where we've come in, like you mentioned, is we're doing this sort of as a service to those patients whose physicians can't participate in the program.
I got you, and I appreciate that you are filling a need that needs to be filled, right? And from what I've seen, what I've learned about your organization, you're new, you're local, and that's what I like about this. That's what I like about your organization, right? I was telling somebody that, and I think there was somebody on our page a couple days ago. They were asking if you were legit, and I said, "Yep." All I said was, "Yep, they're legit." That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to, Now there, this video might go on our page. Are you okay with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. But I just want to make sure that all Kentuckians know exactly what they're expecting on January the 1st. Now, you and I both know that on January the 1st, it's going to be a circus. It's going to be a circus for sure, right? Because one, I don't foresee them having product on January the 1st. Am I correct?
It's a little tricky. So right now under the current law, I would be surprised. So essentially, the cultivators and distributors, as you know, just got their licenses a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Right.
The cycle typically to grow medical cannabis is more than 3 month cycle. So it's theoretically possible. I'm not a farmer by any means, but I guess it's theoretically possible.
Right. Right.
But what I see is most likely, all it would take is an executive order from Governor Beshear to legalize a one-time import of product from Ohio or Illinois, for example, just to get in our dispensaries. And I think that's probably likely. If it takes 6 months to grow the medical cannabis, I don't think that Governor Beshear is going to be comfortable with having no product in dispensaries until
Right.
March or April. It's just going to make us all look really bad. And
Yeah.
all it would take is just one either executive order or a nice bill passed by our legislatures to give a one-time exemption to get product.
Right. Well, with the city of Louisville is only going to have two dispensaries, so it's going to be really difficult for a lot of people to get to those dispensaries. All right. This is all going to come down to the legislators are going to have to work out more of a better detailed plan on how they're going to approach this. Um, what are your how do you go about networking and advertising your business? That's a completely different subject. How do you go about doing that? I mean, how do you go about networking and getting in network with people? Does that make sense? Is that a silly question?
No, it's a good question. So networking is a bit tricky, and it's a new industry, and as we've alluded to, there's a lot of people out there who are not doing things the right way, rather.
Right.
And what we've done is try to do things the right way in evidence-based fashion from day one, and that's partially because we want to do the right thing, and partially because we can't do anything that's afoul of the rules or regulations, because then our employers are going to come after us for violating the laws and the statutes and all this. So we have multiple. We want to do what's right for the patients, and we don't want our bosses and overlords in the corporate world getting mad at us. So we found that just by doing things the right way, we're attracting a lot of attention, and we're attracting a lot of people like yourself who we've come into contact with just by answering patients' questions, who in internet forums and Facebook groups, for example, who are frankly confused, or they may have different pieces of information from different sources, and just by doing the right thing, we've gotten on a bunch of different news programs. We've gotten in the Courier Journal last Sunday, actually, just from doing what we do every day, and had reporters just cold call and reach out to us to ask, just like you are, what we're doing and how we're doing it in a legal and safe way.
And it looks like you are getting a pretty good response. You are getting a very good response, right?
We're getting busy, which is always good.
That's a
But
good thing.
Yes, we're definitely hearing a lot more positive stories from people reaching out to us, and we're not having to fight the battle of perception as much now that we've been featured by these news organizations as well.
Gotcha. So, what are your plans to grow, expand? What are your plans to expand? Have you thought about that outside of
Uh,
Louisville?
it's a possibility. We're not quite there yet. We do have some connections over with the University of Kentucky.
Uh-huh.
Um, the time isn't right just yet, but that would probably be the most logical move is to connect with some of our anesthesia colleagues over at UK. And there's a couple young guys who are just like us, who are interested in the medical cannabis world and have experience from different states. So it'd be fairly simple to kind of duplicate the operation that we have here, using their physicians to help us staff. And it's only an hour and 20 minutes away from us here in Louisville, so we could go over there and we could work some weekends as well to put in some extra availability. But
How many you have on staff?
here, it's myself, and I have two partners of mine who all work for Kentucky Medical Marijuana Center.
Okay. Now let me ask you this question, okay? And I'm actually, my wife's nurse is getting ready to walk in the door, so I might have to counsel with in this soon. Um, I've heard rumor that the portal for the medical cannabis card is going to possibly open up sooner. I'm hearing word that it could open up sooner before January the 1st. Have you heard any word of that?
Not from official sources, no. There's two important dates for it. The first date is December 1st. That's when the portal opens for physicians to put in our certifications for patients.
Okay.
And January 1st is when the portal is statutorily required to open for patients to accept their certifications that have been placed in the portal. Um, I assume from my own knowledge that month period is essentially to test the system that they're using and to implement any fixes before it goes live for patients,
Okay.
just to keep the confusion down and to hopefully streamline the process and kind of stress test it before it goes live. If everything goes well those first couple weeks, it would be really simple for them to just start accepting applications. It's just a couple button clicks from my understanding. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's open sooner than January 1st, but TBD.
Yeah, TBD. All right. Well, so Ryan, I really do appreciate you sitting down with me. I really do. I mean, just a couple more questions, and try to make it quick. What is one, if you were able to do a commercial, a 30-second commercial, like if I gave you uh, access to my Facebook group, KCFC, what is one thing that you would want to get across to Kentuckians from you? What's your one thought?
Um,
From
a
Kentucky Medical Marijuana Center. I mean, like an advertisement kind of question. Does it make sense?
Yes. I would emphasize the fact that it's important, not just to get the certification from anyone who can provide it, but to go somewhere where the physicians actually understand medical cannabis. And what I mean by that is people like to think of medical cannabis as one size fits all, just medical cannabis. But it's actually not. And if you think about it, like blood pressure medications, for example, there's 20, 30 different classes of blood pressure medications out there. And your physician might recommend medication A for you, but recommend medication B for your wife. And that's just
Right.
because you got different conditions that are leading to high blood pressure. And similarly with medical cannabis, there's different strains out there that have different cannabinoids that are within the strain. And these cannabinoids do different things. So there's certain strains that are better for PTSD, certain that are better for anxiety, for chronic pain, for inflammation, et cetera. So by going to physicians who understand the science behind this, you're going to have a better experience. You're going to have less side effects, and you're going to have a greater chance of getting benefits. And that's what we're hoping to do here.
Gotcha. Okay. My wife's nurse is coming
Oh,
in.
it's okay. It's okay.
I'm on a Zoom call. You're okay. Well, again, Ryan, I really do appreciate everything that you've done. I look forward to working with you, and I look forward to seeing that all Kentuckians get the right information. Did you have any questions for me that I could possibly answer?
I don't
By
think so.
chance? Okay.
We've got each other's contact information, and obviously we're going to stay in touch over the next couple of months.
Oh, you and I are going to be good friends. You and I are going to be good friends. I promise you that. I promise you that. Okay. You have a good day. Did you go vote?
I voted early, actually.
Okay, so did I. So did I. I got there right when the door opened. They had a problem, but all right. You have a good day and enjoy your week. Okay.
Yes, sir. You too. Thanks
Thank
again.
you, sir. I appreciate you.
Of course.
All right. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
All right, welcome back. I want to say thank you for Ryan Grell from the Kentucky Medical Marijuana Center for the interview. If you have any questions, you can actually go to his website at kymmc.org. His telephone number is 502-205-7737. I am really excited about his clinic. I'm excited to see what they're doing, and I'm excited to see them taking care of Kentuckians, right, and giving them the value information. I know that they are going to stay on top of their patients and make sure that they are very well taken care of. So I fully recommend the Kentucky Medical Marijuana Center and Dr. Ryan Grell. All right, kudos to you all for taking care of our Kentuckians. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick Dunnigan. I'm the director of Kentucky Cannabis Freedom Coalition. Today, we're going to interview Robbie Bickett with Bickett and Boone. We're going to get some information on how they're operating in the state of Kentucky and get some information about his CBD shops. I'm thankful that everyone is tuning in. Please watch the whole video because at the end, we're going to have a conclusion. So, I hope you all enjoy it. Thank you so much. This real quick. All right, let's see here. I'll make this quick. And first, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to interview you and take part in my final project at school. All right, I really do appreciate it. Did you vote today?
I did.
You did? Awesome.
I voted yes on cannabis.
There you go. There you go. Florida's it's supposed to be Florida and North Dakota and South Dakota. It's supposed to be tonight.
Oh yeah. Yes,
So
sir.
we'll keep an eye out for it.
Interesting.
Huh?
I said very interesting. Let's hope
Very-
it goes well.
Very interesting. All right, so I'm just going to ask you some simple questions and I'll make it general. This shouldn't be 15 minutes long tops, okay?
You're fine. You take your time. I'm glad to help.
Appreciate you. So give me your full name and exactly what you do, please.
My name is Robert Wayne Bickett, and I work for the Public Defender's Office in Elizabethtown as Alternative Sentencing Worker 3.
Okay.
I'm also the owner of Bickett and Boone Cannabis.
Okay, CBD. Gotcha. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
And how long have you been in the cannabis industry?
Since 2018, since the Farm Bill first came out.
Okay. What did you do before what did you do before you were in the cannabis industry?
I've worked for the state the past 28 years. I still work for the state.
Still work for the state. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate what you do. Um, how did you get? How did what percent what possessed you to get into the cannabis industry? What started?
Well, I know you probably know that I had two brothers, and it's actually what got me into the public defender's office. Also, I had two brothers that ended up being incarcerated back in '89 under the federal mandatory minimums, which, of course, that meant that they got the maximum you could get that at that time, which was 20 and 25 years for cultivation of marijuana. So what after that they got out, and after serving their time, which they don't have probation or parole in the federal government. So when after they got out, one of my brothers, I told him, I said, you know what? They're going to legalize cannabis, the hemp, in 2018, and we've had our farm since 1798 out here in Raywick. We own about altogether, my family has about 600 acres of the original land grant that we got back from my sixth or seventh grandfather serving in the Revolutionary War. So anyway, we come from an agra background, and the hemp from the very beginning, I've always said cannabis was probably more of a medicine, and it was demonized by the government, and that's where in 2018, after they give us a chance to grow hemp, that's when we jumped in. I jumped in, I should say.
Gotcha, and you've been thriving ever since, right? Let's see here. When it comes to cannabis in the state of Kentucky, right, there is a big divide in cannabis. It's just, and this is because being the director of KCSC, you've got marijuana, you got hemp, right? And it
Yes,
seems
sir.
that's the main divide. What would it take, in your opinion, to bring it together in under one thing, cannabis?
Well, the to me, we had a terrible experience applying for our medical marijuana license. I did. I applied for it, and they denied ours for, like, there was two drop down questions that they said didn't wasn't answered correctly. So I got denied. I didn't get in the drawing this time for the medical cannabis. But to me, the growing of the medical cannabis should have been held by the Department of Agriculture, like the hemp is. The
Yep.
cabinet should be over the dispensaries and over the production. But I think you need one good office over all of it to coordinate it. But I don't really agree with the way they handled the medical marijuana this time, and they said it was very translucent, the process. But we actually got denied the Friday night before the drawing, which if you work in state government, when you get something at 4:16, no one's wanting you to answer that email. No one's wanting to answer that email.
Right.
So we got it at 4:16, and I actually went up to Frankfurt that Monday of the drawing. I wanted to go in and talk to the people that were over the medical cannabis and ask them what was wrong with the application that I paid $3,000 for. There was not, they wouldn't allow in-person meeting, and I called all day trying to talk to them, and all that weekend, in fact. So then I called the lottery, and I said, can I come to the lottery and watch the lottery drawing? They were like, it's only by invitation only. So to me, there's, like many places, like places out west, there's going to be a lot of discomfort for people, and a lot of people really don't know anything about cannabis that are handling this transition from us, from, like you said, from just being a hemp growing place to actually medical cannabis, and hopefully at some point recreational, because I feel that, I feel recreational is the same as recreational with bourbon or anything else. I'm not saying go out and people should be allowed to smoke marijuana before they go to work, but if they want to do it recreationally in a safe setting, I think that's fine.
What are your thoughts about the decriminalization?
They should be decriminalized. They should have never been criminalized to begin with. Out of
Okay.
all of the things that they could have criminalized, it's probably the least thing that they should have put as a Schedule One.
Right.
At the
Because
very least, it should have been like if you get caught, a fine or something, instead of actually going to prison over it.
right. Well, the DEA, get this, the DEA, they're scheduled to, they were supposed to deschedule cannabis, I think about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. But
Yes, sir.
they sent out a letter saying we're going to wait until after the election. And I was like, all right,
Yep.
here's the election. This is coming down the pipe. because I know it's going to change. It's going to be descheduled to 3. There's no doubt. There's no doubt in my mind. All right.
Right.
And then we got another letter saying they're going to wait until the beginning of the year. All right. So
It's been the same story. I mean, it's going. I agree with you, but it's been that same story all along. They want to kick the can down the road. They don't want to take anybody doesn't really want to take a stance. I don't guess for the every person has a different reason for taking their stance on stuff. But to me, it should have never been criminalized the way it was anyway. And the mandatory minimums were an absolute horror story back
right.
in the 80s.
Yeah, you want to tell me a little bit of story about your brother, right?
Yeah, well, both of my brothers, two of my brothers ended up getting 19 years and 25 years for the cultivation of marijuana.
Right.
And what's funny about this, Patrick, is when you look at the history of marijuana, I know you have, but up to the early 1980s, excuse me, I said 70, the early to the 1980s, it was mainly a $500 misdemeanor fine for the cultivation of marijuana.
Right.
Then all of a sudden in the 80s and toward 88, like I said, my brothers were probably one of the first ones convicted under the federal statute that said it was, for a mandatory minimum, you could get this much time because nobody knew you could get that time for marijuana.
Right.
I'm laughing about it now, but it was kind of sad back then. But yeah, so their lawyers didn't even know how to read. They had a green book. They what they call the green book and the old red book, I think. But one of them was the old marijuana laws. One of them were the new marijuana laws with the mandatory minimums. And the attorneys really didn't even know what was going on at that time because it was just a new. It's kind of like we were talking about Kentucky's medical marijuana. It's one of those things where everybody says, well, it should be done this way. But unless you have a really strong leader that says this is the way it needs to be done and this is the impact, you don't know what's going on.
Right. Right. Let me ask you a little bit. Well, right now in the state of Kentucky, if you get caught, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, you get caught with 5 plants growing, it's a misdemeanor. It's
Yeah, it's 4 or 5. Under
it's
4 or
just
5, it's a misdemeanor.
5 plants. So, and
Yeah.
the bill that I was proposing was a constitutional amendment to basically remove that misdemeanor from the charge, right, and allow you to carry up to an ounce. Well, I want to see that to actually go up higher because after going through with what Governor Bashir said, with the executive order, what is it? 8 ounces is trafficking. Is it correct? 8 ounces.
Yes, over 8 ounces. Yeah.
Right. So I always told
Now
people,
that's a state charge. Yeah, state. Yeah.
I always told people go a 7.5. That way you don't get anywhere near that 8, and you're staying within the governor's executive order. Right. So I want to up that a little bit. I want to see what's done right for the state of Kentucky and for the citizens.
I do too.
I already know that 300,000 Kentuckians have been arrested for simple cannabis possession. So if you had the golden answer, what would you suggest would be a good path to get a constitutional amendment passed in the state of Kentucky on the books?
Well, I agree with just what you just said. Really, you're just going to have to have people like you, people that understand that people do want cannabis, the people that do want cannabis, because you always going to have that pushback from people, a moral pushback from people who say that all drugs are bad, pushback from the alcohol industry because they think for some reason it's going to infringe on the bourbon name or whatever, when really I think it could only, like in California places, it could really only enhance the tax revenue, people's lives who like cannabis. Some people enjoy cannabis as much as they enjoy drinking a bourbon. And for those people to be ostracized and criminalized for that is kind of it's like I said, it was kind of ridiculous to me, but it's been that way for all my life, as far back as I can remember, 23,
Right, the way I look
30
at it,
years, 40 years.
right. Well, I'm 52. I'm 52 years old. I never thought in my life that I would be attending a cannabis business class in the city of Louisville, a private school in
Right.
the city of Louisville. But it's, so the times are changing. I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the future, because one way or the other, if the federal government does something, it still comes down to a state issue. It's just going to help our issue even more. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
But and that's just my personal opinion. And another thing I would ask you, another question is how do you go about networking with people? What is your strong point about networking? How do you go about networking with other individuals in the CBD cannabis industry?
Well, I always go to your office conference. I go to Normal. I've always been a supporter of Normal. I talk to Nancy a whole lot. Nancy Roberts and Jana Groda. And I like meeting those people because that they do understand that not only is it good for people to have medicinal marijuana, but it's also good for people that don't have access to finally have access in places, because a lot of places don't have access. Louisville's rather lucky to have several dispensaries, but some places don't have that.
Well, actually,
They,
local,
they still don't have medical marijuana. I'm just talking about the CBD
yeah,
cannabis.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
yeah. I mean, yeah. And then I would like to see a a clean and I'm actually interviewing Katie Moyer tomorrow morning from the Hemp Association. Right, I'd like to see some way to where we can bring it in and under cannabis and say, look, this is a cannabis issue, right? Casey Starks actually mentioned something about a cannabis department of some sort, right?
I agree.
So I think we all should try to come
You
together.
remember the old days?
Old
You
days.
remember back in the like I'm talking about back when they actually did the mandatory minimums, they had a drug czar. Well, why couldn't you have not a drug czar in the bad way, but that same type of position that helps people develop, because this is going to be a long range developing
Yeah,
process for all of us.
yeah,
And we
yeah.
want to see it to progress the right way. But go ahead, Patrick. I'm sorry.
No, that's exactly what I want. I want to see what's done. I mean, it's not right. And back to the medical cannabis, it's not right for an individual. Their city has said, well, we don't want that in our county. So that sick individual, that individual has to find some way to make it to a legal dispensary, right? That's not right. That's just not right.
That's all right.
It's just not right. Um, let's see, there was one other question I wanted to ask you, and it's going to come to me as soon as I think about it. And it just,
While you're thinking of that, in criminal justice, there's a way of looking at things that, a person will go, a lot of things that are criminalized, that person wasn't given the opportunity to get it legally.
right.
So they divert the system and that makes them criminals or makes them outside what the law would say was right. I always tell everybody, it's funny for me to watch Lawless because it's got all these moonshiners over in West Virginia, and they're talking about prohibition of alcohol, and they're doing this and that, and they got the federal government coming in, and then of course it's legal now, but there's a commercial every time it goes off. There's a commercial for Modelo or bourbon or
Mm.
Baker's, and it's kind of funny to think in roughly 100-year span how it went from being the devil's product to now it's virtually integrated into everything you see.
Well, we walked into one of our Kentucky legislators' office up in Frankfurt, and he had a big Kentucky barrel bourbon on his wall, and I was like,
Yes, sir.
and I'm like, there's our answer. I mean, Brown Foreman has said that cannabis legalization would affect their bottom line. Let me ask you this question, and now this is where I'm going to get a little personal, okay? And
Yes, sir.
I won't say this. Which Kentucky
Say
legislator,
what you want to. I'm good, brother.
if you were to pick a Kentucky legislator out of our legislation, out of the Senate or the House, that you can pick up the phone and call, who would it be?
Well, there's several of them, but
The one that would champion cannabis decriminalization.
well, Jason Nemus always has been. He's a Republican, and most of the time it's Democrats. And the other lady, I can't think of her name, from Louisville, but Louisville seems to be a lot more on the cutting edge. I would say Jimmy Higdon, but and Jimmy Higdon probably would, but we have a few issues with his son, with the copyright of what he did with the book. So
Mhm.
we have some issues with what went on there. But Jenny Higdon Senior is a good person. Um, well, Nicole, I can't remember her name, but I met her at one of your all's things. She seems to be really on top of it. But you need to get people that you don't have to push into it that actually want to do it. That can recognize, like you and I do, that medical marijuana and recreational marijuana, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know about you, but as far as I'm concerned, should be championed. They want to. The governor, when they passed this medical marijuana bill, they wanted it grown in a plastic building, a locked, secure building with grow lights. Kentucky has the best soil, has the most temperate uh, environment, beautiful limestone water running out of the streams, and you don't utilize that to push a Kentucky product, which we were known for when I was a kid. Uh, the only people that knew, the only places people got weed were Central Kentucky, uh, Maui Wowie, Hawaii, and Humboldt County, California, that area. That was a good weed. If you had weed from somewhere else, it was like, that's Illinois ditch weed, or that's, I wouldn't smoke that Georgia junk, because it was just an inferior breed of pot. But then, like I said, Johnny Boone bought in good genetics. They learned about Sinsemilla. The and our area is just really good for growing. So I would want to push it, just like they do the Bourbon Trail or anything else is what I would do.
Well, on that note, and here's the thing, and you actually mentioned it earlier. The Democrats are all for this. They're all for this,
Yes.
right? But it's the Republicans
Mm-hmm.
that are the ones who have to push it through because it's controlled by Republicans. There's just
Exactly.
no
And that's
question.
why you got to have them on, and that's why you have to have that Republican support, because they control the Senate and the House. So it's hard to get anything done without that support.
Right. So I mean, I'm
And
actually,
you don't have to have a Republican. I'm not saying I'm a Democrat,
yeah,
but what I'm saying is you have to have all people come together on these kind of issues. To me, that makes common sense. It's just a common sense thing. It's really not a far left or far right thing. This is just common sense. Since the people that came back from Vietnam started using CBD, and we use a lot of people that use CBD, are vets and whatnot, they're the ones that pushes the Republicans and say, "Look, dude, we got to have some cannabis."
yeah, yeah. Well, this is a bipartisan issue. There's just no doubt about it.
Correct.
I agree with you 100%. We did a poll. We did a poll a couple years ago in our group, right? And of all the parties, and they was just right down the line, half and half. You know, um, just right now, the current environment has to come from a Republican, because if it comes from a Democrat, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just not. It's not going to see the light of day, right?
I
And
understand.
that's where I've gotten stuck, right? And then I've also recognized that it's easier. I've always started in the House, but this time I want to come from the Senate and go into the House, because
Yeah,
the House already agreed to it. Those are the kind of paths that I'm trying to take to move the needle across the line. But on a completely different subject, I believe that all Kentucky farmers and all Kentucky processors should have been picked first in your lottery. Period.
I agree.
I mean,
It was just. Did you look? I don't know if you actually looked at the cultivator's license. It actually had a thing on there that said, "Were you a hemp grower in Kentucky?" Of course, we checked yes, because we've been doing it since the Farm Bill passed. But that was just lip service. That didn't have anything to do, because I think almost everybody that got licensed was from out of state.
I think there was one. I think there was one in.
So
I don't know who it was. I don't know who it was.
yeah, but what I agree with you 100%. Just what you just said. Why wouldn't you allow a Kentucky product like anything else to be made in Kentucky? I
Right.
said that with the hemp when they started the hemp. I said that ought to be a designated, and we are Kentucky proud product, but that ought to have a labeling, product of Kentucky.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not against other places. I'm just saying that when I buy Colombian coffee beans, if I want Colombian coffee, I don't want it grown in Indiana.
Right, exactly. I agree with you 100%. You know, the one thing I will tell you is that we are all fighting try to do the right thing, right? And hopefully that we can all come together and try to push this needle across the line in this next session, all right, and see what we can do. Unfortunately, we have to reset every year, but we'll see what happens.
Well, we appreciate your work, Patrick. We
Well,
really do.
I thank you. I really do. I do it for my wife, and see that's the Grace Henderson, another one of our board of directors. She mentioned, she brought something up. She said, a lot of people who are in the cannabis activist movement right now that are active, they've got a lot of baggage that they're already carrying with them. Okay, they've got invested interest because, like my wife, so it's I wouldn't say a pride kind of thing. It's just, everybody is working really hard to try to do the right thing, and we just need to figure out.
Sir.
We
Yes, sir.
I just, I also come with another philosophy is that, you throw enough darts, one of them is eventually going to hit the center of the board, you know.
Well, you can see the movement now. It's just like you said, the movement, it would have been in 1988 or 89, whichever year my brothers got busted, it would be hard pressed to believe that today there would be medical marijuana in Kentucky when actually they were giving out mandatory minimums for cultivation of marijuana at that time of 20 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we don't see it in probably like kids growing up. You don't see it happen, but when you look back, you can see that it happened pretty quick.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing to watch. It's amazing. This class that I'm taking, this cannabis business class. I have one of my classmates. He's a 20-year-old friend of mine. Right, I've known him for 20 years. Right, and he's
Yes, sir.
he's like 70 years old. He goes, I was like, he's amazed with everything that we're doing in the state of Kentucky. And one step
Yep.
at a time, one step at a time, one activist at a time. All right, but
Yes, sir.
other than that, did you have any other questions that you would like that I could answer you that maybe answer for you?
I just wanted to tell you thank you for the good work you do. That's number one thing with me. I think you've already got out and vote because I know how you are. So
Right here, got it right
be sure
here.
to vote today. Yes,
Oh,
sir.
I did, and we're actually getting ready to go to a watch party here in about 30 minutes. So,
I put mine vote sticker on our Leo's Choice Award.
oh, well, there you
Here,
go.
there's my little vote sticker up at the top. So
There you
anyway, yes, Patrick, like I said, I appreciate all the work you do. And if it wasn't for people like you, we wouldn't have got anywhere anyway. I mean, I try to advocate for everybody because of who I work for. I work for the Department of Public Advocacy. But I do advocate for people, and I think it's ridiculous that people are still getting arrested for small amounts of marijuana or their probation's violated. It's ridiculous. I've said it from the very beginning. To me, all of this is a ridiculous concept. Thinking back to when I was a kid, being around marijuana when I was a kid, to think that people would still be going to prison or jail over it when there's meth and fentanyl running all over the country, taking lives. And it's really sad that state government and federal government can't get their priorities in line and say, look, this is not something that need to be demonized. This is something that we treat the way we do alcohol.
exactly.
I don't want somebody smoking a joint going into work with a press
Right,
or cutting a
exactly,
finger off, but they want to smoke a joint on the weekend to sit around with their friends. I'm fine with that.
I prefer cannabis. I prefer cannabis, but thank you. And
I agree. I understand.
all right. Well, Robbie, I really do appreciate it. And I appreciate everything that you've done for the state of Kentucky. And I look forward to doing more things with you in the future. Okay.
Years to come.
You
Well,
have
let's not both.
you have a fantastic day. Good luck on the election tonight.
Yes, sir. You too. Thank you, Patrick.
Yes, sir. Goodbye. Hey everyone, welcome back. That was a very great interview with Robbie Bickett from Bickett and Boone. A lot of things I did not know about Robbie. That I didn't know that he still worked for the state of Kentucky as a defender. Right, that is very cool. I'm glad he does that. I'm glad he is one of the key players in the cannabis movement in the state. We discussed a lot of things about bringing the unity between hemp and marijuana, and understanding that it needs to come under one umbrella called cannabis, and that it should be decriminalized, right, with a constitutional amendment to allow us to put it on the ballot. Right, the things that Robbie Boone is doing, right, I'm proud of him. All right, if you want to go check out his products at Bickett and Boone CBD, go to bickettandboone.com. All right, again, thank you for participating and watching this video. You all have a fantastic day. All right, hello, welcome back. All right, in conclusion, after interviewing Bickett and Boone and Kentucky Medical Marijuana Center, all right, my conclusion is that everyone needs to come together and support cannabis reform in the state of Kentucky. Everyone has their part. Everyone can do something to help change the cannabis laws. While in this class, I actually had started running a poll. It started actually 62 days ago, and the poll is open to the public, and the poll actually reached 198 individuals who support cannabis reform in the state of Kentucky, with the majority of them being voters, and then over 65% of that poll want to participate with the organization and volunteer their time with this. That's 105 people interested in stepping up and doing something to change the cannabis laws in the state of Kentucky. We need to come find some way to engage each and every person to help participate, because this is something that needs to be done for all Kentuckians. We need to stop arresting people for just simple cannabis possession. It was a pleasure to do this video. I appreciate you all. I appreciate you watching it. You have a fantastic day.